Welcome to a new tutorial. In this one we're going to be building a blog. And yes, I know what you're thinking, it's probably just another beginner's video and you've probably built 1000 blogs by now. Well, this video has a little bit of a different focus and it's not so much on the beginner aspects of Django. So it's more focused on why you should use Django. If you're trying to evaluate whether or not you should use Django, well, this video is kind of going to clear that up for you. And it's basically going to show you that if you have a little bit of strength in Python and maybe a little bit of familiarity with Django, then you can actually get a pretty solid blog up and running and pretty quickly. And when I say blog, I mean actually any blog. If you go and find any kind of blog HTML template or even a paid one that you really like, you can actually just go ahead and get that and simply just attach Django as the backend to it. And that's really the focus of this tutorial series. It's really just to show you how easy it is to attach Django to something that's already made. And so what we're really trying to show you is that you can actually just let the front end people do the work. And that may sound really harsh, but from any back-end developer's perspective, you don't really want to focus on front end. It's normally just a waste of your time, because if you don't know how CSS or JavaScript works, then you're really just going to spend most of your time there instead of on the back end. And that's not really what you want to do. You want to get your front end ready made, it's handed to you, and you can just go straight to attaching a back end to it. And that's really cool. And you can get really good at doing that if you just know a little bit of Django. So if you've never seen any Django videos before, this is probably just going to confuse you. So I suggest rather take a look at one of our other series on this channel, which shows you more of the introductory basics to Django before you jump into something like this. But if you've been following along and you think you're getting comfortable in Django, then let's get into this. So this folder that I have open is the contents of a blog that I went and found, and I'll show you the link to this. So this website is called Bootstrapius, and I'm not affiliated with this in any way. I just browsed the web for some time trying to find a blog that I really liked, and I found this one was quite good. So let's just look at a live preview. And it's also very basic. I'm not trying to do an extremely advanced blog, but it is just basic and nice and something that you might consider using. Again, this isn't the only blog you can use. You can check out a bunch of different websites to find other free examples, and the concepts will remain the same. So basically, there's different kinds of templates that they've provided, like this normal blog list, and there's a bunch of stuff on the side, like a search, latest posts, categories, tags, and we're going to run through all of that, and pagination there, and we can look at a post detail as well, and then you get an idea of what a post detail looks like. So this is what we're going to be using. We're not going to customize any of this unless we really need to, but we're basically just going to be linking this to our backend. So what you'll need to do is download it from this website and just come over here and download the template. It's free. And once you've got that, you'll then have a zip file that you can unzip, and this will be the contents inside there. And so basically we're just going to go ahead and create our Django project in there and get started with converting this into a Django project. So we'll first create a virtual environment, and now we can activate the virtual environment. Then we'll just install Django, and this is the latest version of 2.1.5. And then we can say Django admin start project, and we'll just call this blog. Cool, so there's blog here at the top, and I'm going to rename this to be source. Let's rename that source there. And in there I'll create a static folder, and we can move most of the stuff in there. So let's move CSS into static, fonts, icon references, JavaScript, images, vendor. That seems to be most of it there. And then we've got text files and HTML files. So inside source, we'll also create a templates folder and just move the rest of those in there. Cool. Right, so now it's nice and clean. Static files, templates. And immediately let's go into our settings, and I'll just get rid of that and this comment there, and we can install linter as well. So let's go down here to our templates, and we're going to need to add os.path.join the base directory to templates so that our templates can be read inside that folder. Now we'll need to go into our URLs, and this is so that we can also set up our static paths. So let's go all the way down to the bottom here, and we already have the static URL. So I'm just going to add the settings that I use for most projects that have static files. So this is all we need. So you've got the static folder in the environment, and we can actually just make it like this. Then you've got the virtual environment path, which is just to link to the media root. So the media root will be outside the source folder, and we can actually make our static root based off of the virtual environment path as well, and we'll call this static root like that, and we'll bring our media URL over there. Cool, so that's the setup for our static files done. Now we can go into the URLs, and here we're going to need to import a couple things. So we'll just say from django.conf.urls.static import static, and then we're also going to need our settings. So this is from django.conf import settings, and we can bring that up over there. So then here at the bottom we can just say if settings.debug. Then we'll just take our URL patterns, and we're going to add 2 more URLs to that. So we'll say static, and this is going to take the static URL, and then with that we need to pass in the document root, and that is going to be equal to settings.static root, and then we can just add another one, and this is going to be the media URL, and then this one would be the media root. Cool. So now let's actually run migrations. So we'll change into source, say manage.py, make migrations. So there's nothing there. We'll say migrate. Cool. And we'll say run server. And there we go. And now what we're going to do is refactor all of our HTML files to include the static content and also to have a little bit of Django logic. So let's first start with the blog actually index.html, and I'm going to remove all the comments out of this, and let's just make it like this. So basically what we want to do is determine what is common in all of our HTML files, and once we know exactly what's common, so normally that's things like a header or a footer, then we'll export that into some kind of base.html file, which will import those kind of things into all the other HTML files so that we don't need to actually repeat ourselves with HTML. So let's actually open blog as well, and let's see, are the styles exactly the same? So you got Bootstrap all the way through until your custom, which is exactly the same as this over here. And so that means that all of these style sheets are being imported into every HTML file. So that means we could basically take the head here and we could make a file, and we'll say this is header.html, and then we'll just take all of that, paste that in, and actually we're going to call that head.html. Cool. So now we can get rid of all these comments here. Then we can come here and create our base.html. And this is going to be the root HTML file, which will specify all the blocks that all the rest of the HTML files will depend on. So what we can do is we'll just grab this top part here, so the HTML over there, and we'll come in there, and then we'll just close off HTML. And then we'll start off with including the head.html file. And so this is basically going to make sure that every file that extends from base.html will have this file included in it as well. So what we'll do is inside blog, come to the top here, and we'll say extends from base.html. Then we can get rid of the HTML at the top there, and we'll go all the way to the bottom and get rid of it there as well. And most likely the scripts are also constant in both these files. So you can see all 6 of them there and 6 of them there. So we can just cut all of that there, create a new one. This will be scripts.html, paste all of them in there. You can actually close that. And then in our base.html, when we come to the bottom here, and we'll say include scripts.html, and we want to make sure that our body tag is wrapping around that because our scripts have to be inside the body tag. So we'll just wrap it like that. And then inside body, here we'll say this is block content, and then we'll say end block content. So what we would do in our blog is we can actually get rid of the body, come to the top, get rid of it there as well. And we'll say that this is block content, come to the bottom, and then say end block content as well. So now everything is being wrapped inside the content block, which is this block here. And then we'll do the same thing in index. So we can actually get rid of everything from head and up, and then go to the bottom, remove HTML and body and scripts. And you can see that's already a lot that was removed there. And then we need the same two commands here at the top, which are the extends and the block. And then we need the bottom one as well. So we come to the bottom, there we go. And most likely the footer is the same in every page as well. So what I'm actually going to do is cut that out as well. So we'll cut that, and inside templates we'll create footer.html, paste all of that there. And then in our index, or in base rather, right underneath it, we'll put another include and say this is footer.html. And we can actually tab that like that. So now we can get rid of the footer from there, and we can close footer there. We can go to our blog and we can delete the entire footer. And there we go, we're starting to make a little bit of progress. So most likely the header is actually also the same. So we'll cut that out as well. We'll go into base, or actually rather create our file first. So this will be header.html, paste everything there. And then in base, then right above the content, we'll add another include, and this one will be the header.html. So basically the logic is that we have the header, then we have our actual content that's unique to the page, then we have the footer, and we have the scripts. And we can come to the top here as well and remove the header from there. So everything up to there. And this is where things will then get different. You'll have this hero has a background of image/hero, whereas this one doesn't actually have a section or a hero section at all. So that's where our content is starting to differ, and that's basically where we would stop adding things into our base.html file. And so now let's just go into our blog, and I'm going to create a views.py. And here we're just going to say from Django.shortcuts import render, and then we'll just say define index, which takes a request, and then say return a render of that request to go to our index.html file, and we'll pass in no context. And then we'll create another one here, and we can say this one is, let's say, blog, just to match the HTML file, and that one goes to blog.html. Then we'll go into our URLs and we'll import those views. So we'll say from.views import the index and blog view, and then here we'll add two more parts. This one will go to index, and this one will go to blog, and we'll say this one just goes to the empty path, and this one can go to blog. And everything is still running, so that's good. So we can come here and just refresh there. Cool. So that's our index.html, and then we can go to /blog, and then you get blog. Cool. So now let's try and add the style, so we can close views and URLs, and we can actually close base as well. And here let's go and open up the scripts, and we'll also open up head. And let's start with head. So here at the top we need to say load static, and then for every href we need to reference this inside our static folder. So what we'll need to do is just come here and say static, and then wrap this inside quotes, and then close it off like that. And then we can just copy that and paste it like that, and then we'll just come in like that. Cool. So that's inside head. Then we can do the same thing in our scripts. we'll come to the top here and say load static, and then just come here, say static, paste that there, and then just come in over there and end them all off. Cool, so that's all our scripts done as well. Let's come back here and refresh this, and we're not getting anything yet, so let's close the server and we'll say python manage.py collect static, and we get no folder static in env, so we're going to need to do that. We'll create a new folder. This will be static, actually this one is static in env, and run that again. Now we get a static root that's outside our project, and if we refresh this, let's first run the server. Now let's come back, reload this, and we've got some style, and we're just getting some images that aren't displaying as well. So let's just go back and make sure that we've got that done correctly. So we'll just add it here as well for the fav icon, and this is actually meant to go like that for this one, and that seems fine for the other ones. Let's refresh here. Cool, okay, that one was definitely the one that was off. So now we just need to make sure those images are also referencing from our static. So let's close that and let's just search for image. So we've got 33 images here, and actually we're going to search instead, we're going to search for that. So we've got 11 images, so I'm just going to go and add the static to all of these and then fast forward to when that's done. Cool, so that's all of that done. Now I can just come here and say load static at the top, and if we come here and refresh this, cool, so now all those images are loading, or at least most of them. See, there's a couple here at the bottom, but these ones are from the footer, so we need to go and sort that out in the footer. And what I'm going to do now instead is just finish the same thing that I just did in blog in index.html. So I'll just go and load static and then fast forward to when that's done. And actually, just before doing that, something that's quite important here is noticing that in the section style, they've set the URL to be an image path. And this is important because if this background image was specified in the style sheet, in the CSS sheet, then you wouldn't be able to use your static in those CSS files. So you need to make sure that you specify the background URL inside the HTML so that you could come inside here and actually write out the static path like this. Otherwise you will not be able to do this in the CSS sheet, and you won't be able to reference the actual path to the image. Okay, cool. Let's come back here to the local host, and cool, now the images are loading, and I see we're missing still a couple of them here, and the font to Google is also not correct. So let's go to the head and let's just see, this is not meant to be static. This is a path to a URL. Let's refresh this, and okay, cool, so that error is gone. Now let's just go fix those images. And let's refresh this. Okay, cool, so that's one over there, and these three are in the footer, so let's go and sort those out as well. We're going to the footer, and then here at the top again, load static, and they should all be image tags. So here they are. So we'll just add our static in here quickly. All right, let's go back, refresh this, and we are good to go. Everything is looking good. And now we can start looking at pieces of logic that we need to fill in. So one thing right off the bat is URLs. When we click on these links, it's obviously not going to take us to the right place. Luckily, this search doesn't take us somewhere else. At least it's right here on index, but that means we'll need to handle the logic in that view as well. And what we'd also need to do is actually replace this with real posts that we've made. And then down here, latest from the blog, this would also need to be the latest posts. Then we'd need to have a subscribe to newsletter form down here. These images would have to most likely be related to some sort of category because you can actually search them. Also, it seems like it says a request cannot be loaded, so that's interesting. And then you've got a whole bunch of links down here as well. I'm not going to go and create the HTML files that will actually link to this, like FAQ. So FAQ doesn't exist, partners, none of this actually works. But if you want to create the HTML files that would actually show content relating to this, then you could do that and link them. And then you've also got some links down here, social media icons, and then some 3 posts here as well. So we'll need to handle logic for all of that. And if we think about the kinds of views that we would need to create to handle most of this logic, then we would need to have some kind of list view where this would be like our list of posts, which it seems to be is this like front page a little bit, but also this seems to be more of like a landing page as well. Then if you go to blog, this seems to be our post list page. And if we went to post.html, which we're not rendering yet, but if we did, that would be like a unique instance of a post. So what I'm going to go and do is refactor our post.html file here. You can see it's completely untouched. So what I'm going to do is just fix this up. Okay, now that that's done, we can also create a view for that. So we'll go into here, and this will be our post, which will render post.html. And then we'll take this into our views, create another path there, and there we go. Now we can go here to /post, and cool, there's our dummy instance of a post. And so immediately we can see we've got 3 main views. You've got like the home view, you've got the post list view, and then you've got the post instance view, so like a post detail view. And so that's where we're going to leave this tutorial. In the next few in the series, we're going to start adding the logic to actually handle some of the things on the pages, such as searching, the latest posts, categories. So we're going to run through creating all the models and the logic to handle all of this. So if you like this video, then leave a comment down below and let us know what you thought. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.